The eccentric killer who loves to play with his victims on camera is at it again. We are offered a season of 6 20-minute episodes, in which the maniac, played by Duplass, will kill another group of unsuspecting men, who will videotape their last minutes of life. Once upon a time, back in 1996, there was released a black comedy The Cable Guy, where an ordinary American was suddenly befriended by strange cable guy played by Jim Carrey. The film made some money, but mainly due to the previous achievements of Jim Carrey. The audience and critics did not understand The Cable Guy and did not appreciate it, discarding its surreal satirical humor overkill. But the years went by, times changed, and the issue of personal space and stalking became more and more relevant, which eventually led to the appearance of mockumentary horror The Creep. Unlike The Cable Guy, which cost a relatively large amount of money, The Creep was filmed with almost no budget, and the main roles in it were performed by the authors of the movie. The serial killer, calling himself Joseph, was played by writer and producer Duplass, and his victim, a hired cameraman Aaron, was acted out by the writer and director of the picture Brice. As such, the dark story of obsessive friendship looked much more organic, so 3 years later The Creep had a sequel, and after another 7 years, the authors released a miniseries of 6 episodes, continuing and developing the story of the killer in a wolf mask. Why did The Creep become a cult hit? Because it very accurately got the fears and phobias of modern man, to whom society, on the one hand, prescribes to be tolerant and understanding, and, on the other hand, constantly reminds about the importance of personal safety. At what point is it worth throwing away natural politeness and resolutely fend off intrusive attention? And why does our instinct for self-preservation so often sleeps, failing to notice blatant markers of potential danger? The first movie played brilliantly on these extremes. The killer deftly kept the hired cameraman by his side on an emotional seesaw, masterfully manipulating his feelings. And even though there was nothing really scary in the frame, the film was frightening with an uncomfortable, unsettling sense of impending disaster, when you know that something abnormal is happening, but as if you don't have a decent reason to turn around and run away. The sequel followed a similar path, but the authors slightly changed the approach to the story in it, making the viewer wonder if the killer played by Duplass is really trying to rethink his life, or is it just another mask he put on. A fresh miniseries beats in the same direction. The first 4 episodes are short murder stories in which the protagonist takes turns introducing himself as an actor, a skydiver, a priest, and a fan of a forgotten indie documentary filmmaker's talent, while the last 2 dive into his soul, revealing what the world he lives in looks like from the inside. It's a curious journey, but frankly these series add little to the thoughts that Brice and Duplass fumbled for in their first 2 movies. What's more, at times it feels like these 2 need the Creep tapes much more than the viewer. Duplass shows a brilliant masterclass in acting transformation and boldly digs into the dark corners of his character's mind, while Brice actively seeks out new and curious ways to tell stories in a non-trivial way. But if you've already seen the original trilogy, your enthusiasm for this project is sure to wane with each new episode.